Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. How you doing this week, Chip?
Doing great. How you doing, Eric?
Doing fantastic.
All set for trick-or-treaters?
We're all set here. Halloween is just a few days away. We've certainly got fall weather here.
And it's actually supposed to be very nice on Wednesday night.
So we are looking forward to that. So last week, we talked about putting together a personal growth plan. Today, we're going to talk about building a business plan. And the reasons for putting together a business plan and putting together a personal growth plan are very similar. You write things down, figure things out, and have a document that holds you accountable. Business plans tend to be a lot more complicated, and they seem to be a bit daunting for new business owners. So we're going to talk about how you build a business plan and what steps you need to take.
Yeah, a lot of it does start with things that we've been talking about before, which is figuring out what your personal growth plan is and what you really want to do. And then we talked about researching the feasibility of doing things a couple of weeks ago. So this is kind of like the culmination when you're ready to get together to actually put this together. So your business plan is going to include, what the idea is. It's going to include how the company is going to run. It's going to include the finances, business development strategies, and so on and so forth. And a really great resource is you can go online and get business plan templates all over the place, but the SBA website is very, very good. It's also a really good idea to visit your local SCORE office, which is the seniors. Basically, it's a free service where they're going to help you out with that too. But I like kind of combining the Michael Gerber approach from the E-Myth starts with the business development process, which starts with a primary aim. And this is what you have to develop. Really, if you want to develop a business that you're going to love running, it's got to come from your heart. It's got to come from your primary aim. And the questions there are, what do you personally value most in life? What kind of life do you want to lead? What do you want your life to look like when completed? And who do you wish to be deep down? And basically, when you come up with ideas for that and then a strategic objective and business plan for putting this whole thing together, that's what it's all about. So, with that, we can get into the different components of the business plan.
Right, and that's a great place to start. And one of the things that I have found a lot of business owners do, they go online or they buy a book, and it all starts with the template. And the problem with the template is that the very first section that every template has is actually the last thing you should be doing.
The executive summary.
Exactly. Every template starts with the executive summary. But this is a summary of everything else in your plan. Trying to do this part before you work through the rest of the plan, it's like hitting your head against a brick wall. And this is where most entrepreneurs actually give up writing a business plan. So when you look,
those that are trying to do it themselves.
Yes.
Because you and I, when we're working with businesses talking about business plans and the component, there's a reason it's called the executive summary. Summary always means the end. And I always, when I'm working with my clients on a template, I have the pages so they can see what's there, but write in big bold letters underneath executive summary, it says, do this last. Because it's going to summarize everything that's in the business plan. You're going to be able to put things in there, such as if you're looking for financing or partnerships and so on and so forth, you will have evaluated that through the business plan. And you can just hit a dotted checklist in the business summary, the executive summary, to list that. But it has to absolutely be done last.
Absolutely. So don't even try doing that part before you've gone through the rest of your plan. So,
yes. Part number two is this is pretty simple. This is what you're going to start with, and this is your company description.
right.
If you're a new company, you're talking about the idea and things that you're doing. If you're an existing company and you've never done a business plan, which there's a lot of companies out there that haven't, it starts with background information about your company, information about your products and services, customers, things like that. So it's just like a checklist of different things about your business. It's a nice reference section.
Right. And your company description, the more detailed you can make it, the easier it will be further on. Because you're trying to figure out exactly what your company is going to look like. And the trick is, you're not trying to describe your company at the time that you're writing the plan. You're assuming that the plan is going to move forward, the plan is going to be successful, and that's the company that you're trying to describe.
Yeah, it's basically a snapshot as to when your company reaches maturity rather than startup.
Right. So you put together what it is you're going to do, how it is you're going to do it, why you're doing it, what makes you the right person to do this. All of these go into your company description. And once you get the description done, you really have to go into the nitty-gritty. And one of the parts that comes up is your market analysis.
And this is part of the homework that you're going to be doing before you even write up a business plan. This is where you analyze who your potential customers out there, what percentage of the market you can get, whether it's feasible to do this. You really have to do a great market analysis before you get going on your business. Otherwise, you're just hoping that it's going to work out.
Right. In your market analysis, you have to look at your product, who your customers are, who your competitors are. And in terms of competitors, the biggest mistake people make is, well, nobody has a product or service exactly like mine, so I don't have any competitors. You have to broaden the definition. There are always competitors that do something similar, even if it's not the same. From a consumer point of view, somebody can be looking at your product and somebody else's, even though they're not identical. So you need to make sure you're including all of your major competitors.
Yeah, when consumers are out there buying something, they're buying solutions, they're buying comfort, they're not buying items. And that's something that you really have to keep in mind. When we talk about people preparing for networking commercials, we talking about value added rather than what you do, because unless people are looking for exactly what you do, people at networking meetings don't care, but they do care about how you're going to solve problems for them or make them feel comfortable, that kind of thing. So when you're looking at potential market, understand that that is the consumer psychology, and that's what you have to play towards, not what you're doing and mine's better than the other one.
Right. When you're looking at competitors, you're not looking at, is my service similar to theirs or is my product similar to theirs? The question you have to ask is, do these services or do these products try to solve the same problem? That's how you know they're a competitor. So once you've gotten a good idea of your market, and you really do need to know your market backwards and forwards, you now have to figure out how well you know your own company. And that starts with the organization of the company. Now, by organization, I actually mean two different things. One is the structure that you're going to take, whether it's a corporation, an LLC, sole proprietorship, and that's very complicated. So we're actually going to skip over that this week. We're going to come back to that in its own episode later on in the series, because it's very important to get that right and very important to understand, because every form has advantages and disadvantages and very specific legal requirements. So you need to really know what you're doing with that. And that, when you're making that decision, work with the coach, work with a score representative, work with the SBA. Most of all, talk to a lawyer, because this is all legal structure. You need to understand what's going on. So that's the first way that I mean organization. And the second is your organizational structure. President, CEO, COO, make an organizational chart. Now, a lot of small business people go, well, why do I need a chart? It's, there's only 2 of us involved in this project, so we'll just split everything up. The organizational chart is not just about who's doing what job. It's a way of making sure that every job is covered.
Yeah, this is a really, really key document that I always work on with businesses, whether they're small or large. And what the organizational chart does is it actually lists what you do, what the company does, everything that everybody is responsible for. And for most businesses, this includes business development, it includes operations, it includes HR, and it includes finance. And if you get the business development, for instance, and look at what they're responsible for, this would be things like how you are selling things, how are you getting things in the door. It could be internet, it could be outside sales, it could be this or that, but you have to identify that. And then obviously operations is what happens with the process from when you get an inquiry in the door through when you're passing out your invoice to billing to bill the customer, and everything that happens in between. And the great thing about mapping this out on an organization chart, and this is with blocks where you can do it, using a spreadsheet, or you can do this using a graphics program. But by having everything in front of you, you as a manager can manage your business very well, number one, because everything is right in front of you. And number two, you can fill in the blanks as far as who's doing what. It's maybe you only have 2 people, but maybe there's certain things out there that you're better off subbing out. Things like payroll and accounting and HR and things like that. If you fix those costs and you have that down on the chart, that's a headache that you don't need, and your cost is fixed. And that's a great way to do things, because I think as a business owner, you're going to find that you are probably best and most important in business development and operations, running the business. So getting that on paper first is really, really important to do in a very simple format, because an organization chart does not have to be complicated.
All right. And there are a lot of people that try to make these very complicated. There's no reason for that to be. Your organizational chart should be as simple as possible, but you have to make sure that everything is covered. You would be surprised at how many business plans I look at where they've put together an organizational chart and they have forgotten key positions, such as accounts receivable, these are the folks that send out the invoices so that you get paid and the company makes money. It's a very important function, but most entrepreneurs don't think about that. They're thinking about putting the product together and getting it out. You have to make sure you have all of these things covered.
Yeah, and that goes in the financial management part of your organization chart. And one of the things that you can do then, once you have this organizational chart done, let's take accounts receivable, for instance, is you can write up an operations manual, which is as simple as a checklist as to how things are done. So it could be receive the finished order from production and then invoice the client, send it out. If they haven't paid within 30 days, checking on there, making a phone call, things like that. And if you have a checklist to go down, it accomplishes 2 things. Number one, you can train your employees to do things right. And number 2, you have instant accountability because you have a checklist right in front of you. So by starting out with an organization chart, you can take a look at the items that you're going to need to train people in or outsource and write up checklists to make sure that you're staying on top of things and can do that training.
Exactly. The org chart is a great way to put that